Episode 5, The Beatles, Something New.
The Beatles Come to America. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Welcome to the Beatles Come to America podcast. I am your host, Tom Gouker, along with the Beatles Guru Brooke Halpin. Today, we are talking about the Beatles, Something New, and it was released July 10th, 1964. This is the 5th album release in 7 months. Before we get into this episode, we got some housekeeping notes we just want to share, and then we'll get right into it. I have a podcast called Something Came from Baltimore. It's a music interview podcast about jazz, R&B, and blues. It's not really about Baltimore, but we want you to subscribe and be a part of that Be More music scene. That link is in the show notes. The Beatles Guru Brooke Halpin is all-knowing when it comes to the Beatles, and he sweats that Beatles DNA. Follow him on Facebook. It's the Come Together with the Beatles and Brooke Halpin. That link is in the show notes also. And then we also have a Facebook page called The Beatles Come to America, and we're asking you to subscribe. Just remember, we are a DIY lo-fi production. We apologize for any pops and hisses, and we hope you subscribe, participate, and enjoy. Just remember, we love the Beatles. It's something new, something old. You're going to have to listen to this podcast to find out. It's The Beatles Come to America, Episode 5, Something New. Brooke Halpin, welcome to The Beatles Come to America, where we are reviewing something new.
Well, Tom, it's great to be with you. It seems like I was with you yesterday, but, I'm not quite sure. But it's always a lot of fun being with you, Tom. And here we are with the Something New album. And I have a lot to say about this album, I'll have you know. A lot to say.
I love the fact that you lived it. Now, I'm the 70s baby, so I went after these albums after they were already out on the shelf for, roughly 10 years. This was a big year for you because Intro to the Beatles came out in January 10, and then in January 20, we got Meet the Beatles, and then we got the second album in April 10. We got the Hard Day's Night on June 26th, and then we have this lull where Something New takes its time, where it's July 20th. Just less than a month later, we get Something New. Is it something new?
Yeah. So here's the problem with this album. This album, the name of the album is Something New. It's not. It should be called, the name of the album should be called Nothing New. That's the true title of this album. And Capitol, all they were doing, they were exploiting and capitalizing, that's capital, by the way. They were capitalizing on the Hard Day's Night movie going to be released in the States in August. And they wanted this album to come out just before the movie was released. And there's nothing new about it. And the cover is a joke. The back cover is even worse. There's nothing on the back cover. There's a bunch of verbiage. There's no photographs on the back cover, and the front cover is like an old photograph that they did. It almost looks like the Ed Sullivan Show, but it's not. I think it might be. But there's nothing new about this album. There's no new songs on this album. Well, you could say, it's the first time that we're hearing in the U.S. things we said today and Slow Down and Matchbox and Anytime at All and When I Get Home. Okay. But as you know, and as I know, those songs were released on the UK A Hard Day's Night album. And what they were doing, because United Artists had released A Hard Day's Night prior to this album. And that's United Artists, and they were not happy about that. But there was nothing they can do about it because of the contract that Brian Epstein had with United Artists to do the soundtrack album to the movie. So Capitol says, all right, well, we need to cash in on the Beatlemania before the movie comes out, and we're going to call the album Something New, which again is a lie. It's an outright lie. It makes me angry today. Okay, at the time, everybody went out and bought the album because it was the new Beatles album. It says right there, something new. It's a new Beatles album. No one was thinking what I was thinking today, talking about what I'm talking about. But Capitol did this, and they, for God's sake, they actually included songs that were on the Hard Day's Night album, the United Artists version, that we already had. We already had on an album. We already heard I'll Cry Instead, Tell Me Why, Happy to Dance With You, and I Love Her, and If I Fell. So what they did, they took the same songs and they put them on this album. They called it something new. I don't like this at all. I don't like this at all. Total exploitation, taking advantage of the fact because they knew that kids like me would go out and buy this album. And you know what? They were right. Because this album was like, what did it reach? I think it was like, for 9 weeks. It was number 2 for 9 weeks with the same songs, with the exception of a few songs.
Yep.
I think it's terrible, but I really don't like the situation at all.
It was 9 weeks for at number 2, and the Hard Day's Night was in front of it. It went double platinum. It has 5 songs that are on the same album for a Hard Day's Night, and
exactly.
A lot of people are, has a German song on this, and people don't speak German. It's interesting. Now, as a consumer, I picked this album first because there was songs. I'm still a little salty over the soundtrack of the instrumentals. Well, I know for a fact I bought this album first before I did a Hard Day's Night. And I felt like I was getting a value. Americans were completely unaware of what was going on overseas because import albums were not really coming over. So we didn't know that there was this amazing album called A Hard Day's Night that had all these songs on it, more or less.
That's right. That's right.
That Hard Day's Night album that is the British version is fantastic. And what you got here is just chopped up pieces. And
yep.
It feels sloppy. It is sloppy. And on that note, let's talk about this. I always like to. I ranked these albums so far. I'm going to ask you to do it too. I don't know if could you do it on the top of your head right now, or do you want to think about it? Everything that's come out so far.
Well, this is the worst album. Absolutely, this is the absolute worst Beatles album.
All right. So in my case, I'm going to rank this as the Beatles' second album is my favorite so far. Intro to the Beatles, I'm very fond of, and Meet the Beatles. All 3 of them, I'm in a total love fest. Then it's Something New, and then A Hard Day's Night soundtrack. So,
oh wow,
yeah, I just really love those first 3 albums, and I feel that we're kind of getting gypped with A Hard Day's Night in this, and we realize we are. So the first song that we have available is "I Cry Instead."
Yeah, well, we already talked about this. See, Capitol is creating a problem for you and me on the show today, and it's still creating problems. We already talked about these songs. We talked about "I'll Cry Instead." So why do we need to talk about it again? Right. I don't think we need to. No, we don't need to.
Let's go right to things we said today. It's the B-side of A Hard Day's Night. It's written on a cruise in the Caribbean with Jane Asher, which there was a lot of relationship songs with Jane Asher, and this is one of those. It was only done in 3 takes, which I think is crazy because it's a really good song. The piano was not supposed to be in it, but it was leaked into one of the mics. The beauty of the harmonies, and I find this to be a bright spot in their career as a real step up in their creativity as a future as to where they're going.
Yeah, I think that this is a great song. I love this song. I still love it. It's a fantastic song. It's a nostalgic song, looking back. Things we said today. Someday when we're lonely, wishing you weren't so far away, then we will remember things we said today. Beautiful. Now, what's also great about this song is that the verse is in it's in minor. It's in minor. I do it in A minor. I think it's A minor. The verse is minor, when he's being nostalgic, and the chorus jumps to major. And by the way, Paul harmonizes with himself. There's no George might be doing some harmony, but I believe it's McCartney. It sounds like Paul. Then when it goes to the bridge, this is interesting. It goes from an A minor verse to an A major, which is a huge shift. It's only one half step note change in the triad, they call it. But boy, when that goes to the A major for the bridge, I'm just a lucky guy, that whole bit. And they're really pumping. They're pumping more energy on the bridge. And the lyrics are more positive on the bridge. So it makes sense. And I don't know, again, if Paul was aware of this, is that here he is, he's got the most positive lyrics in the song, in the bridge, and it happens to be major chords. They're all major chords in the bridge. Then when he slips back to the verse, it goes back to A minor, goes back to minor. Brilliant. I mean, in terms of composition and songwriting, it's absolutely musical genius. And of course, he wrote it for A Hard Day's Night, and it wasn't used in A Hard Day's Night. Very interesting stuff.
Remember the Flintstones? They had the Beau Brummel Stones, and the song that they sang over and over and over on the one show sounds extremely similar to the things we said today. So when I hear this song, I always think of the Brummel Stones. What am I saying? Am I saying it right?
One of the country's most popular recording groups, the Beau Brummel Stones.
I hate to say it, but I told you so. Don't mind my preaching to you.
The Bro Brummels?
Yeah, they called them the Beau Brummel Stones.
Oh, okay. The Beau Brummels was a band out of San Francisco in like 1965.
They had them featured on the Flintstones, and the song that they sang was, to me, felt identical to things we said today.
Well, I'm sorry I missed out on that. And by the way, it's Beau Brummels. That's the band from San Francisco with a song called Laugh, Laugh.
Now, the next song is our third song, is Anytime at All, which I feel has another really great high energy song, perfect for Hard Day's Night. It was mainly a John Lennon song, but then Paul said he did the middle. Paul sang Anytime at All, like anytime at all, just because he could hit those notes. I think this is just another perfect song within the time frame of their career. High energy, and I love the call and response between Paul and John. I think it's pretty awesome.
I love it. It's a high energy song. I love it very much. And Lennon's vocals are very strong. Very, very strong vocal deliverance. He delivers a great vocal. John was writing different lyrics at this time. When he wrote the lyrics to I'll Cry Instead, I've got a chip on my shoulder that's bigger than my feet, I've got every reason on earth to be mad, I mean, those are pretty strong. They're strong, but they're not upbeat. But these lyrics, when he's saying things like, if the sun has faded away, I'll try to make it shine. I mean, that's gorgeous. What a beautiful lyric. That's a lyric that you would expect from Paul, quite frankly. And George would write a lyric like that. But George wouldn't write a lyric like that in 1964, but later on in his life, after the Beatles broke up. So it's a beautiful lyric. It shows John in a caring, loving way, lyrically. And it's interesting, too, that John ends the song with just a chord on his rhythm guitar without the band, which was unusual. So they were still, at that time, of course they were being their creative, innovative selves with his song. And I love it. Love it very much.
Anytime at All has such a high energy that they've continued. The next song, number 4, is When I Get Home. This was influenced by the Shirelles. It took 11 takes. That's a lot for them at that time.
But you see, again, if you're saying that, these are songs that they wrote for A Hard Day's Night, and we're talking about the Something New album. We already talked about the Hard Day's Night album, and they're not on the U.S. Hard Day's Night album. So this was all very confusing, and it all had to do, as I said before, it all had to do with exploitation, knowing that the kids would go out and buy this album. The Nothing New album is what I call it. I love this song, When I Get Home. I mean, my God, right from the very beginning, whoa, whoa, hi, whoa, whoa, hi. Good Lord, hello? Yes. I mean, it just grabs you immediately. I got a whole lot of things to tell her when I get home. Now, lyrically, this is very interesting. Because what does he tell her when he gets home? We never know. It doesn't say what he tells her. Now, also on the bridge, before we get to the bridge, the insinuation that I get, because John and all the Beatles at this time, they were having affairs and having intimate relations with women all over the place. So when he says in the bridge that I'll love her more until I walk out that door again. Now, that's pretty suggestive. It's like, okay, I'm home, and when I'm home, I'm loving you. But then when I walk out the door, not so much. That's my interpretation. And that's what was going on. John would go home and see Cynthia, right? And then he'd go back on the road, and he would be doing what they do on the road. So this song is really about him being with other women, and then when he gets home, everything is fine and dandy until he walks out the door again. So the lyrics, he was actually coming out and saying it, but nobody knew that back then. No one knew what he was saying that. But that's my interpretation of the lyrics.
This one, number 5, is Slow Down, which was a Larry Williams song. It was on the Specialty Records.
Come on, pretty baby, won't you walk with me? Come on, pretty baby, won't you talk with me? Come on, pretty baby, I'll give you one more chance. Try to save our romance. Slow down.
This is one of those records that they got out of Brian Epstein's shop. And when they played Dizzy Miss Lizzy, they flipped it over and they were Slow Down, and they were like total in love with it. And because no one in England knew these songs, they became their songs. So it was something they worked through at the Tavern Club, and it was a favorite, and they made it more of their own version. This Ian McDaniels, he is a critic and an author, said this is one of the Beatles' least successful rock and roll covers, and I disagree. I love this song too. I don't hate it at all.
This is a very good rock and roll song. The Beatles, as you said, loved it. That's why they covered it. But when you listen to the recording, and I've listened to it many, many, many times, the band is not tight. They're not tight. They should have done another take or another 2 takes. John is playing lead guitar on this song. And it's not, John's lead guitar playing on this song is not that good in my opinion. In the introduction, and then he goes, he slides up on a chord. And then when it goes to the 4 chord, it doesn't flow. It's having a hard time playing the damn chord. So they should have done it. They should have done another take, for God's sake. And when you listen to it what I'm saying, you're going to hear that. And the other thing that I don't like about this recording is that John, of course, he's doing a double track vocal. And he's saying different words. And they kept it in. This is before the guitar solo, when he talks about the boyfriend what is it, boyfriend down the street. He's saying some other words. He's not saying the same words when he's doing the double tracking. So it's sloppy. This is a sloppy recording. The band's not tied. John's guitar playing is not good. His solo is, it's okay. Nothing great. And Ringo, I think, Ringo's drumming is excellent. And John's lead vocal is excellent. But other than that, no. They should have done another take on this song.
Matchbox. That's a Carl Perkins song, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Carl Perkins wrote it. Jerry Lee Lewis played on it. It was a B-side of Your True Love. So this is another one of those songs that the Beatles got a hold of that they really, really love.
Well, I'm sitting here wondering, matchbox for my clothes. I've been sitting here wondering, will a matchbox hold my clothes?
It charted, it hit number 17. The B-side was Slow Down. They used to have this song available for Pete Best. Became a Ringo song. So,
yeah.
Matchbox. This became like almost a blues staple. Like it really elevated the song. There are so many different covers on this song. It's only because the Beatles recorded it. What's your thoughts?
Well, the Beatles loved Carl Perkins, especially George, because Carl Perkins was rockabilly, and George loved playing rockabilly guitar. Now, there's a couple of things that are really interesting about this. Ringo, of course, as you said, did the lead vocal on the recording, and when he did, he had a sore throat. So he was struggling with the vocal. As a matter of fact, he triple-tracked his vocals. And when you listen to it, you can hear that he's not tight with his overdubbing the same vocal track. He probably wasn't feeling good. He had a sore throat. And to compound matters, Carl Perkins was in the recording studio while they were recording this, which probably didn't make Ringo feel too comfortable. Probably made him feel uneasy, combined with the fact that he had a sore throat. So that was not good. And then here's another situation where John's playing lead guitar again. And the guitar solo is okay. Yeah, nothing great. Now, why in the world, here's the question, didn't George Harrison play lead guitar in this? Because George was the rockabilly guy. He knew rockabilly far more than Lennon ever did. And I don't know why. I wish that George had played the lead guitar solo on this song. And I wish that Ringo didn't have a sore throat, and probably would have been better if Carl Perkins was not in the control booth. But anyhow, that's the situation, folks.
How much pressure was that to have Carl Perkins in the room while you're doing their song, and you know you're...
Yeah, and with a sore throat. Yeah, yeah, not a good combination. No, but the recording is, it's okay. But I can hear all those flaws. I can hear the flaws, Tom.
On side B, we have our first song, Tell Me Why. Our second song is And I Love Her. The third song is I'm Happy Just to Dance With You.
Yeah, we already did those.
Yeah.
Yep.
The fourth song is If I Fell in Love With You.
Yeah, If I Fell, we did that as well. Hello, this is Nothing New.
Nothing New. At the last track, do me a favor, work me through this one. It's a German version of She Loves You. They also are And I Want to Hold Your Hand, and there was another one that they did. It's on the Swan Records. Can you just give the whole, explain to the audience, because what happened here?
Well, as you and I and most of our listeners know, that the Beatles played in Germany for at least 2 years. The Beatles played in Germany for at least 2 years, 1960 to 1962. They may have played in 63, but I don't think so. And they had a huge following, not only in Hamburg, where they performed, of course, but they were popular in Germany. Certainly once Beatlemania took hold. Beatlemania was not confined to just the UK or the US. It was worldwide. So the Germans loved the Beatles, and they felt as though, to a certain extent, that they were kind of like they were like the German Beatles. They felt like the Beatles were theirs because they spent so many hours and days and months and years performing in Hamburg at the different clubs. So it was a very smart idea and the idea was, listen, you have a huge following in Germany. Why don't you boys sing 2 songs in German for your German fans? Which they did. And Brian Epstein, thought it was a great idea. And, of course, George Martin also thought it was a great idea. Now, the Beatles obviously went along with it because they knew that they had a big following. So, in Germany. So from a marketing and sales perspective, it was very, very smart for them to do this, to do Come, Gib mir deine Hand. Now, when I heard this song, when I had the Nothing New album, and I listened to this track, I didn't know what the hell they were doing. There was no explanation like the explanation that I just gave. It's like, what are the Beatles doing? Singing in some strange language. I didn't know German. I don't speak German. I didn't understand German in 1964. So they put it on a U.S. album, which didn't, and it, quite frankly, doesn't make any sense to me today either. Why did Capitol do it? Because they needed to flesh out this Nothing New album with a song that no one has ever heard before in the U.S. that we couldn't understand. So, again, I don't like the fact that Capitol did this whole Nothing New album and then to top it off, to put out a song and the Beatles singing in German, which we don't understand. I mean, would we rather hear I Want to Hold Your Hand with the Beatles singing in English, or would we rather hear I Want to Hold Your Hand, Come Gib mir deine Hand in German? What would we rather listen to? Of course we would rather listen to the song that we loved, I Want to Hold Your Hand. So to me, this was, again, it was just part of Capitol just needing to fill out the album, flesh it out, give it, enough time. I think the album is how long is this album? It's not that long. It's only 24 minutes. So they needed it. What else are they going to put on? Are they going to put on another song that was already released on, some other albums? So I don't like it. I understand it. I understand why they did it, but I don't need to hear this song. I don't even bother listening to it today. And as a matter of fact, I have never, and no offense to the Germans, it's not that I don't like Germans. I have German friends from Germany. And my radio show is very popular in Germany. Come together with the Beatles because they love the Beatles. But I've never played this song on my radio show. I never have. Unless there's going to be sometime there's going to be a proclaimed German Day, in the U.S., or that if Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr suddenly say, oh, we're going to do a whole Germany celebration, then I might do it. But otherwise, no, I don't even play this song on my show. That's how much I don't like it.
They have 2 new producers on it.
Yes, they do, the Germans, yeah.
And was that just to create the translation of the lyrics?
Yeah, that was part of it. As a matter of fact, the Germans actually, on the record, John, which is a stage name, John Nicholas, and then Heinz Helmer, and Lee Montague, sounds like another stage name. They are getting credit, actually, as songwriters on this because of the translation. Now, think about that.
How cool is that? I'll do that.
Yeah, how cool is that? So these guys are cashing in as lyricists along with John Lennon and Paul McCartney in 1964. Hello. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the whole thing stinks. To me, I just don't like the whole idea. They're cashing in on it as well. And they did, obviously. Well, you think these guys wrote any more lyrics? What do you think?
I read that it took 11 takes. It did reach 97 on our charts.
Oh, yippee, 97 in the U.S. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. They
Also-
cracked the top 100.
Yeah, surprisingly. And they thought it was a good idea until they got into the studio. And John had some difficulty. He seemed like it was the translation wasn't there. It wasn't,
Right.
they were doing a tour. So they were just in New York for tour. They were supposed to get in and out and knock this out. And it just felt more and more complicated, just like our show. It just seems a lot more complicated than it's supposed to be. And he was having second thoughts as he was going through it, just like the show.
Oh, you're funny today, Tom. By the way, they recorded this in Paris. They didn't even record it in Germany, and they didn't record it in London. They recorded it when they recorded Can't Buy Me Love at the same studio, the Path Marconi Studios.
It's a great idea. I mean, obviously, a lot of people speak German in theory, and I'm a fan of Connie Francis, and bought her box set, and she has Italian, German. She translated all her songs into different languages, and I can only imagine she was very successful in those markets. It's time consuming, and it's not necessary when you're the Beatles.
Right.
Yeah. At this point, you just put out 5 albums in less than a year, and we have another album coming out that says 1965, but it was released in December 15th. It's the Beatles 65.
Yeah, we'll have to get to that next time round.
Yeah.
Beatles 65. Yeah, that was, the title was foreshadowing. It was like, okay, this is what's going to be happening in 65. And I'll just say this on this recording, is that Beatles 65 was truly foreshadowing the Beatles' sound had changed quite a bit from the albums that we had just reviewed up to this point. And I'm going to look forward to speaking with you about Beatles 65 next time round.
It's weird how that, just 1 year, their sound completely changes or morphs into something else, and 65 becomes a different year with a different sound. Nothing New album to you is a thumbs down or thumbs middle, or you're happy that it's the Beatles, you're not happy that Capitol ripped you off?
I hate this album, Tom.
Okay. I have to admit, the album cover is blurry. I don't understand why they couldn't come up with something. They could dress this pig up a little better.
Well, they couldn't because they rushed it out. They didn't spend any time on it. They threw it all together, and it sounds like a throw together. It's Nothing New by the Beatles. It's
24 minutes, and it is a double platinum album. Capitol could turn around and say it was a success. So we didn't feel it, but obviously it worked for them. So we are up to Beatles 65. It's the Beatles Take Over America. I'm your host, Tom Gouker, along with Brooke Halpin.
Tom, listen, it's great being with you. I just wanted to say one thing about things we said today, because we are saying things today, right?
We are.
The sound of that one note, da-da-dum, ba-da-dum, it's an incredible sound. It's the strumming of the A string, the open A string, on guitars, plural, plus the piano plays it as well. Brilliant. Everything about things we said today is brilliant. That's the only thing. Yes, I like any time at all when I get home and slow down is, okay, Matchbox is, okay. But things we said today is the star on this album.
Everything else is B material. Things we said today is pretty awesome, and it's I guess it's the Beatles that I like to hear. I think it's very, very intelligent, and It's awesome, and it's the Bro Brummel Stones, so it reminds me of my childhood.
We can't forget those Brummels, Tom.
All right, that one was easy. So let's see how our next one goes.
Okay.
That was the easiest one we've done so far.
Yeah, and I gotta, I'm really glad that, people think, oh, here's Tom and Brooke again, raving about how great the albums are and how great the songs are. No, not so quick, ladies and gentlemen. So they're really hearing what I have to say about this LP.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, I'm not. I kind of bashed Hard Day's Night. I'm not happy with it, and so, that goes on record too. When you have 50 years to look back on stuff, you can definitely come up with a different thing. When you're in the middle of it, it's just one big party. But looking back at it, you realize that Capitol definitely screwed the American public. And
they just cashed in. They just completely exploited us, and they did very successfully.
Yeah. When they did the CDs, it felt like they were all brand new albums again.
Yeah. Those
shame.
pigs.
Yeah. All righty.
Thanks, Tom. It was really a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it was. It's always fun to talk to you. All righty.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Take care.
Bye-bye. Next episode, The Beatles 65. Now enjoy an original Brooke Halpin. Composition. Put down your guns.
Put down your guns. Put down your guns. Join the march and march with us. It means so much because we must march for our future, march for our lives, march for tomorrow, because it's right. Put down your guns, put down your guns. The time has come to put down your guns, put down your guns. No, don't take our lives away. We just want to make a safer way for you and for me, for he and for she, for everyone from A to Z. Put down your guns, put down your guns. The time has come to put down your guns, put down your guns. It's time to listen. Listen to our voice. You're with us or against us. You make the choice for a better tomorrow, for the children of today. We want action now without delay. Put down your guns. Put down your guns. The time has come to put down your guns. Put down your guns. Join the march and march with us. March for our lives. March for our lives.
End of episode.